When it comes to the investing world, all right, maybe one way of looking at the choices that we have, all right, is to understand how the returns are generated. Because when you understand how the returns are generated, then you know whether is it risky or not. So for example, banks, right? A lot of people say, oh, bank make a lot of money.
Is it true?
Depends on the bank.
Okay, welcome back to part 2 of Chills with TFC, and we are back with Weeson again, right? Is there?
Hi, Reggie.
Yeah, we don't need to act like we, just went home and come back. Okay, we wear same shirt, everything.
Same position, right?
Yeah, same shirt, everything. Relax, it's okay. Yeah, but I cannot let you go lah. Just talking about all the good juice. Although you did share a great story, and I like some of the insights that you share about life, making decisions, in your career and all that. But making decisions go beyond just career, right? And we are a personal finance podcast lah, right? So we must talk about like financial decisions and risk, making money and investing and all that jazz, right? So how can I let you go, right?
It's okay, but caveat, right?
Yeah, caveat,
I'm not certified. I'm not licensed. So
yeah. It's okay. We're not here to give financial advice, yeah. But I want to pick your brain on decision making, right? And maybe this big word of risk, lah, right? Because it is a word that's being thrown around in personal finance, right? So maybe we start with like, what is considered a good decision?
Wow, first question, so difficult already.
Yeah, because it's part 2 already, ma. Don't need to lay up already, right?
Yeah. Well, a good decision is when you understand yourself well in terms of how willing you are taking risks and how able you are taking risks and the goal that you are pursuing. And of course, you can't do that without not understanding what you are buying, right? So if the good decision is based on, oh, I know how it works, I know when it will go wrong, and when it goes wrong, I am willing to take it. At the same time also, I'm able to withstand the losses. If the bad events happen, then I think it's a good decision to make, right? So on the contrary, a poor decision is you just basically get attracted by the big headline numbers of the type of returns that you make. You don't really understand how you do it, but you keep hearing a lot of people are doing it and they make so much money out of it. That is a bad decision because you don't know yourself well enough.
But it's so common in finance. Right? Everyone sell you the next big thing, the next big headline, next big ETF, this private investment, that placement. There's all sorts of stuff going out there. It's so common, your colleagues cannot.
Well, I mean, it is not easy to solve, right? It comes back to behavior, right? But I must say, compared to where the industry has started many, many years ago, at least what is happening right now is with social media, there are a lot more participants that are helping in the financial literacy world. They believe very strongly. I mean, namely, what you guys are doing.
Of course,
right?
yes. Yes. I will win the next Star Award. Just say.
Well, so I think that element actually, in the name of trying to push for financial literacy, help people to understand a bit more. But you see, you can't run away from behaviors of greed and fear. Not very easy to
We're not relinquishing the individual's responsibility, yeah, but also just recognizing that, with more talk, and more information going around, it does on some level change the industry, right? The industry on some level, bo pian, say information too out there, you have to keep to certain standards.
True. Well, I mean, if you look at the Singapore financial industry, it's highly regulated.
It is.
There's a lot of standards right there that's been put in place.
License very hard to get. Many layers.
And to a certain extent, if you look at the way how the delivery of recommendations are done, right, there's a lot of work that comes within the industry, the people that are providing it, the regulation side of it, the other participants, right, to make sure that consumers have more confidence in dealing with buying financial products with the right licensed operators.
Because you are knee deep in the space, right? Or you were knee deep. Maybe you will go back in, we don't know. Right? You were knee deep in the space. What is one thing that, as a retail person, like, I don't know, at the back, regulators do this and all that protects my interest? What is something that you can share?
Okay, so maybe we go there. I'll talk about that later, right? But I would like to share with your audience, right, is there's a difference between financial advice and product advice. Okay. So in this industry, most of the providers are giving you a product advice. Very far and few provides financial advice. And what is the difference between two? Financial advice, all right, is an organization or an individual, all right, that really look at your financial needs. They go to the extent of understanding your finances, understanding your goals, knowing what you have and what you don't have, all right. And then they come up with a financial plan for you. That is what I would deem as giving you the financial advice to tell you whether are you borrowing too much or you're saving too little. And then against the goal that you want to go, how realistic is it for you to be able to reach where you go? So that is usually clubbed as financial advice. Product advice basically is, it is deemed that you know there's something that you want already. What they will try to do is to see that whether that product fits the risk that you are comfortable taking. So most of the providers in Singapore do this part. So when you are engaging with any of the consultants or bankers or agents, you just need to be mindful with that, because it is unrealistic as a consumer that you are expecting the person to give you financial advice, where the person by actions is only giving you product advice.
So you turn one round and say most financial advisors are not giving financial advice.
It's not to say they're not giving financial advice, but it's just basically when you go to them, you're seeking for product advice. You're asking what is good to buy.
No, but if I go to them seeking for financial advice and they give me product advice,
you need to be very clear. Are you going for financial planning? Or you're going to say that, what is good to buy? Based on the market view, right? What is the investments that I need to look for?
But do you think a lot of financial planners or financial advisors or even bankers, they come to you masked as financial advice by actually just giving you product advice?
No, because there's a distinct difference between the two. The process of doing financial advice comes with the output of a financial plan. For product advice, is very different. Product advice is basically, they will still ask you some of the questions, but it relates straight away into a solution, because they say that based on your risk appetite, right? These are the few that more or less is suitable for you, right? So that's the distinct difference.
Yeah, great. I think there's a beauty in what you just pointed out, right? In terms of financial advice and product advice, right? Or the what are you going for, right? It's quite different. So if you're trying to coach someone into be discerning of these things and like having a step-by-step kind of methodology towards making better decisions, right? What are some common things that people should be aware of when they are in the personal finance space trying to make like what the hell is going on in this thing?
Okay, so first thing, it starts with what you have. How are you spending your money? It's as simple as that. Today, are you spending more than what you earn? And fix that as a fundamental. So this is where the basics of using credit cards all start to come in. Don't borrow too much, to fit your current lifestyle, because you're confident that your future income can pay for it.
You're rolling.
Right? So be very mindful of that. So simple rule is basically you spend less than what you earn. From there, then whatever excess you have created, then it's a question of how then do you grow this money to planning in such a way that in the future you have more than what you have today that can pay for that type of expenses that you need in the future. For example, for yourself, it may be like, okay, I plan to go on a big trip. Maybe when I hit a particular age, I want to take a break. Probably want to spend about 1 year, see the world.
I'll buy a caravan and drive to London.
Right?
Yeah,
so those are certain maybe life aspiration moments that you want to fulfill. And the practical part is you need to be prepared financially for it. Right? The last thing you should do is take your credit card and then start swipe. And then say, okay, I'm going to go on my round the world trip, right? That's not prudent because you create another problem after the trip is over. Then you'll be laden with so much debt. So then is to be able to find a way how to be able to grow it. Simplest rule of thumb is like what we said just now, right? Buy something, that you know how it works. Be comfortable with the risk that you're taking. And then most important thing is just basically understand two things. The time duration, how long you're prepared to let it grow. And also understand there's this thing that a lot of people are saying, believe in the compounding effect. And for all you know, the type of instruments that you will choose to buy, they're very basic stuff. It doesn't have to be very, very sophisticated. Buy unit trusts that are globally diversified, global bonds and all those. As simple as those things that provides you with the ability for the investments to grow over time. They're well diversified enough, that fits into your risk appetite, that you don't want to take so much risk. And it has a compounding effect of growing in. And to be able to regularly put money in, because One of the things that for people like myself who have seen so much over the years, right? The best time to be investing, right, is when you have excess money. You don't really need this money for a very long term. And then it happens to be during that time when there's a lot of market movements. And those are opportunities that present good time to start investing in something that is very well diversified and allowing for the skill of the investment manager, right, to be able to grow that money over time. And we have seen so many big market situations that has happened over the years, right? And the recent one was actually what we have seen last year. But if you have investment horizon of 5 years and all those, right, to be able to buy some of those well diversified funds, right, you will be surprised on the result that you get 5 years down the road.
Then why are there so many fanciful products?
That is because consumer likes novelty.
You sure not supplier need to sell something?
Well, in the age of consumerism, the market demand for consumers is, I want something new. I want something interesting. You give me boring stuff, I'm not interested. So unfortunately, the world got caught into all these things, right? But if you look at the true essence, right, of the things that really, really work time in, time out, right, are just basically the simple, seemingly boring type of stuff. But unfortunately, the consumers finds that it's unexciting, right? So it created this particular scenario that the financial world have to constantly find innovations, right, to just basically keep with that novelty or something new that the consumer needs.
So essentially, there's no need for sectorial fund. There's no need for all this, multiplier within some of these funds, and no need to leverage. None of this. All those things you think as an average consumer, you don't need to care.
Yes and no. Okay, what do I mean by yes and no? Again, when we look at the world today, right, the number of people right now that has surplus savings, because we live fortunately in this part of the world, right, where our economies continue to grow. A lot more people have a lot more investable savings already, right? And at the same time also, you have different people who have different level of investment needs, right? So there are some of them would need this type of tailored instruments, more modular, that caters to their needs.
What are the people that
it depends. I mean, it's hard to be able to say it, right?
Yeah.
But in general, the more well-diversified one, right, is a very good basic step to start. But as you grow your wealth, it becomes larger and larger and larger. You'll probably want different type of variations, right? Because of your familiarity with the investing part. And then you're comfortable taking a point of view that you think that this industry, you feel that you will grow. Maybe you work in the industry and then you say that, okay, I think I'm a lot more comfortable with this industry because I know the industry well. I work in the industry. Then you might want to participate a lot more in that part. So it provides that variety. But for anyone who has started it, right, it's good enough to have something that is basic. So it's like shoes, right? You start with a simple pair of shoes, right? Then after that, when your lifestyle change, you don't want to go running, right? Say, hey, my walking shoes, can I use for running? I need a good pair of running shoes because I want to start to train for my half marathon and full marathon, right? And you can't be wearing a dress shoe for it, right? So there will be things like this, and then you play certain type of sports, right? You want a shoe, right, that cater for that sports, playing tennis or playing badminton or whatever. So that is where it will cater for the needs of different groups of people. Yeah.
But in general, whatever you just shared is good enough for a start.
For me, it's a good enough start for any well-diversified global equity funds, global bond funds. Because at the end of the day, our biggest investment that we should make, if we are all working on, right, is our career. Right?
Which you can find out in part 1.
Which is actually our career, right? We should be spending most of our time there because that gives us the ability to be able to create, right? And it's within our control. It is our skill. It is our time. But there are certain things when it comes to investing, unless you are in the investment world and you can do it, then fine. But most of us are not. So the best way to be able to do it, right, is to find somebody that is doing it on a full-time basis. And start with something that is very well diversified, that allow the person, right, who is very familiar with the market, right, or the investment companies and all those, right, to manage it for us.
Yeah. Or eventually, over time, you build up some confidence. Then you say you take a point of view, right?
Correct. So let's say, for example, right, you grow your career in the tech industry, you go to a more senior position, you can understand the dynamics of it, and then you can see certain trends that are emerging out of it. You say, and then I want to put a bit more money there because I understand the industry. And then, you go and buy all those stocks that you think that will do well.
Fair. I like that thought process. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. But then when it comes to like making decisions in finance, right, there's this word that gets thrown around, right, which is risk. And that's the part that gets very iffy, right? Because it's not just a pure technical, logical term, term, there's a lot of emotions that are packaged into it, right? At least from the masses point of view, like for the retail crowd that you know. There's a lot of emotions bound. I know when the financial guys talk about it, very technical one. This thing, risk is a number, right? There's a very technical element to it. But when we are investing, or putting our money, risk can be quite emotional. So how should I understand risk as part of my decision-making process?
Okay, you're right to say that, it's a very complex definition when it comes to how the financial sector is trying to show average consumer, right? But I think the industry is trying as hard as it could to simplify. And the way to simplify is very simple. How much are you willing to lose if you are putting X amount of dollars? So if you're investing $10,000, how much are you willing to lose? I think that's the simplest way to describe risk already. Are you willing to lose all of them, or you're willing to lose a percentage of it? And what they will try to do is to decipher from here on, right? To see, okay, which type of investment instruments are right? When we look at the past history, usually they will go as much as what you're willing to take. But that is based on average, based on history. Yeah. But I think the way how we look at risk, if you look at it from this point of view, right, is something that we need to explore a bit more, because we should take it as a way that if I can understand this, I know how to generate the return. No different from, I think, the business world, right? Where a lot of successful entrepreneurs, when we look at them from the outside, right, we think that they take a lot of risks, but actually they are not. They are very prudent in taking risks. They know how to find opportunities to get the growth. Either they know how to produce the product as cheap as possible and can sell it at the highest price and still give the good quality, or they go into a new space where there's a very big demand, no one is offering it. So I think similarly, when it comes to the investing world, right, maybe one way of looking at the choices that we have, right, is to understand how the returns are generated. Because when you understand how the returns are generated, then you know whether is it risky or not. Okay, so for example, simplest definition, right? Banks. Right? A lot of people say, "Oh, bank make a lot of money," right?
Is it true?
Depends on the bank.
Well, very political, but
But it's true, right? It depends on the bank, right? Because you have good banks that you have a very good group of people running it, and you have some of them that made terrible mistakes of late. But there's a general understanding, right, that banks make a lot of money, so it's good investing in banks. The question is basically this: is if you know beyond just that bank make a lot of money, and you know how banks make money, to a certain extent, it gives you a bit more comfort, right? That, then I know how they manage the risk to make money. Right, then you go a bit deeper, right, to understand, okay, under what situation that it will go very wrong. So because of that, you empower yourself with the knowledge already to be able to do it. But that requires a self-interest. You need to be interested to learn. Right, to be able to do it. And I think today, with the podcast that you have created and all those, there's a lot of materials, right? You just need to stick with one channel, and then you learn along the way, and then you be more enlightened over time. Yeah.
Fair. Because I think there's a lot of people that just compare returns to returns, in the sense of like, you put in the bank, fixed D gave you 1%, you invest, you get 8%, it's like, hey, what are you doing here? Right? You should go somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah.
So leading to that, right? The question that you should ask right, is how is the 8% generated? Because that is part and parcel of coming back to the word risk. But it's just that I'm framing it a bit differently, is to say that if you say that you're going to get the 80%, how are you getting it? If you cannot understand how the 8% is generated, or the answer that is given to you, it doesn't really
make sense.
Right? Then you should step away from it already. That is actually risk management. Don't buy into things that you don't understand.
Okay, fair, interesting. So then what are some common scenarios that you see? Because I think a lot of people, when they think about risk, right, you very, very often you hear this line, I'm very risk averse. I want to invest very safe one.
Okay.
Or even the converse is also true, in a sense of like, I all sorts of risks I also can take one. And I often feel like these people are oversimplifying it, and also like they don't fully appreciate it. That's why they will take this kind of positions. Very extreme.
Okay. So that is where a good financial advisor comes in, right? Is to be able to ask. It's no different. Say, how are you? Say, okay lah. Right? But a good advisor, right, will try to find more than that. What do you mean by okay? Right? So in the world of investing, right, it's just basically say, oh, you're risk averse. Why are you risk averse? Right? And it's to get into that conversation, right, where the advisor can understand a bit more. When they say they're risk averse, what does it mean? Because sometimes, right, when they say that I don't want to take a lot of risk, right, more often than not, right, it's because of a bad experience.
Share me more.
I mean, we all hear news about people losing money and all those things, right? And the person may have lost some money out of it. They say, no, I don't want to take any more risk already. But if you do not ask more than why you're risk averse, you will not know. And I think a good financial advisor knows how to coach the client on how to overcome that bad experience, and is to understand a bit more about what actually went wrong with that situation. Is it because at that point of time, this was money that you were already prepared to set aside to invest to grow, and you're quite prepared to lose the money at that point of time? That is what you thought. But in actual fact, when you really lose the money, then you were like,
not like that one.
Right? Although you say, okay, never mind, I can take risk on because at that time, everything was very good. Right? So it can be those things. Then a good advisor then will start to coach the client, right, a bit more about, okay, how then do you balance between the ability to take risks and the willingness to take risks? It takes time, but that is where, if you are a consumer, right, and you're feeling that this person knows how to understand you a bit more to work on this, you better stay with the guy already. Because he is making an attempt to understand you a bit more, and he's sharing a bit more, right, to help you get past through this stage. Because like it or not, right, if we are too risk adverse and we have so money sitting in cash, it doesn't work well for you over time. There's so many evidence that we can see on prices. Price of cinema tickets, buying our chicken rice and all those, right?
Crazy.
It will never be the same run. It will continuously go up. You cannot run away from it. If you continue to put your money into cash, the price of your chicken rice will go up, right? You will use a lot more of today's money, right, to pay for something tomorrow. So therefore, you need to be able to find a way to be able to grow it.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Coconut Podcast Network. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And if you're loving what we're creating here, like, share, subscribe, share with your loved ones, comment in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll see you for great content on Chills with TFC. Fair. I get it. Even auntie know inflation. 通货膨胀 right, auntie also know, then you know this is a common idea, right? Okay, so then as someone that's been in the industry 20 over years, 30 years, and now that you are temporarily out of it, liberated, right? So what are some things in the industry that you feel as a smart consumer, of financial products, or as a smart investor of financial products, that I should be aware of? That is very common in the industry. Everybody do these things, say these things, but you want to, like, on some level, warn the buyer a little bit.
Number one is like what we earlier have talked about, right? Understand the role of the person that is actually talking to you. Is he giving you a product advice, or is he giving you a financial advice? And know what you are getting into. Two is basically you need to know what you are buying. Although the person is helping you to describe what it is, you need to know it also, and not over rely on the individual, because it's your own money at the end of the day. What the person will do for you, he is making as the best attempt to understand your risk level. So this leads into number one, how then do you acquire knowledge? The whole financial literacy part of knowing how to grow your money. And I think that is where I would advise your listeners, right, to find channels that the delivery of what they are sharing with you, it resonates with you. Don't get too carried away with, I can make money for you, you should be buying this and all those.
But what if that resonates with them?
My advice is you stay away with that first. You go back to a person, right, that you can connect with over the phone screen, right, that is sharing some things, right, that make sense to you, all right, and then after that you learn more from that channel.
And over time you become more discerning, right? You
Correct.
learn to become
then you
more
can expand it a bit more to go to the more advanced channel, right? They will start talking about very complicated technical analysis, buying into different type of things, right? Then you will go there. Right, so you go there at your own pace. Yeah.
Do you have a channel you want to share with everyone that you think is good?
Stay tuned. I'm not saying I'm creating anything. Coming. This is stay tuned to Reggie's future products.
No, good things are coming your way. Good things are coming your way. Great. Okay, so and I think got another element that, since you talk about it in this way, right? I wanted to ask you, like, who do I then decide that I can trust? Because sometimes I feel trust is misplaced, right? Like people trust people that are like them, or people trust people that are like make them feel good and all that. But when you're making financial decisions, sometimes it's really not these things, it's like it's how good this person is, like the insights and the things that they carry, the rigor that they have. How do you kind of work through all these different metrics to decide, okay, who I can trust my money with?
Singapore is a place done right that there are a lot of, I wouldn't say safeguards, but there's a lot of work that has been done right to make sure that the industry is providing a good level of advice. But most of the advice that is provided are product advice. And there's a lot of things that is happening behind the scene to make sure that whoever is providing it done right can do it to the best level. And they are regulated. If the provider cannot comply with this, there will be consequence. And it is in the act. It's called the Financial Advisors Act, right? So we are dealing with a market, at least in Singapore, right, that you have this certain level of expectation that we have to give to our clients. I think at this point of time, right, is you can't run away from behaviors. The natural attraction for greed and the fact that when things don't go well, heighten of fear goes up because behavioral science is you feel pain twice as much as you feel gain. It is like that. It's hard to be able to answer about trust. But all I can say is this is a country where the providers that are giving you all this advice on right, they have to meet a very high level of standards. And their standards keep going up over time. With the main intention is to protect the consumer right, from not getting into a situation that they start to lose trust in who they are offering to. But again, it's human behavior. And certain times when it comes to human behavior, right, it's very hard to be able to predict. Yeah.
So there's no issue with the sellers or...
I would say there's no issue with the sellers, but it's a two-way thing.
Of course, I think we address the one-way thing, right? The one-way part of like the individual greed and all that, right? But what else? Like sellers also got some weird things right out there that they do.
Well, it depends on who are the sellers.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's why I think it's like, how do we
so
decide?
it comes back to, is the person giving you product advice or the person is giving you financial advice?
Which you think is rare, financial advice?
Financial advice is rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Right.
Today's episode is sponsored by MAS.
I'm not working for MAS. I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. Fair. I get it. I love it. Okay, so how do you look at someone, knowing what you know, and like when someone come to you, you ask them all the questions. How do you know that they have a good plan?
I'm sharing with you my own experience,
Thank
right?
you,
So when it comes to a stage of I'm trying to define my own path, obviously it's important to give myself the comfort and also my wife and right, that financially we are okay. So I had the opportunity to speak to a financial advisor, right, that walked me through the process. But it is a process that I'm very familiar with because I'm in the industry. But what made a lot of difference right, is basically the person himself, what he values. I'm able to see the values that he holds very dearly to him as a professional financial advisor. And that values is actually quite similar to his own personality. So it's not a mask. It is actually the person himself. And I think the good thing is basically is the person knows my background. But he is able to tell me certain things right, that made me start to think of, I may have got it wrong. And he is brave enough to be able to do that because why he's doing his role. And knowing that, even though I am in this industry for very long, I may not know everything. And he presents that part. And he just doesn't agree with whatever that I want to do. And I think that is where I felt that, this is the guy for me because he doesn't agree everything I say. He keeps saying that you shouldn't be doing certain things. Yeah. So he gives me a very good dose of reality. And that's very reassuring. That I know that, he is really looking at my interests rather than just basically producing something that will then lead into him wanting me to buy something. So that's very, very different.
Last question, right? How do you decide that based on the advice that's given, your previous position is inferior to the new position recommended?
It wouldn't say it's inferior, but the thing is basically is I needed validation and he was able to describe all these things with me. And I find it's very refreshing. I mean, sometimes, when you see a particular specialist or whatever, they can tell you there's certain things that you don't really need it. why are you overspending money on certain things? Do you really need what you want? So there are very far and few people that is able to tell you, no, this is not good for you, right? Rather than just, okay lah, never mind lah, we try lah. Since you want it, I give it to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Most
you.
welcome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely. I got 3 questions that I will ask everybody.
Sure.
Number 1 is, what has been your best and worst investment you've ever made?
Best investment that I've ever made is my family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's another season of podcast. Yes. That one cannot open one. That can open. Keep going already. Yes.
I bring tissue paper.
Yeah.
I bring tissue box. Sell out the tissue box.
Yeah.
Best investment is my family.
Okay. And worst?
Worst investment is buying something what my tailor friend told me.
Your tailor friend?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's one of those painful life lessons.
Thousands of dollars worth of suit, is it?
No, it was the height of pre-Asia financial crisis.
Oh,
everybody was just basically investing, and because I used to hang out at the tailor friend's place, so that guy was so into investing, right?
Forget how to tailor, every day just invest.
Yeah, and then suddenly he became a stock pundit, right? And he has a character, right? That knows how to convince you, although he doesn't know the thing, right? And we got carried away, we all like, okay lah. Then we just put, and then after that the stock market crashed.
Yes. Welcome the story of the life of many people of that generation. Next question is, what is one thing under $100 that has been a game changer for your life?
Actually, I would say that it's my start, the allowance that I had. That was contributed by my relatives and my friends.
Okay, so it's not about what you spend, but what other people spend on you.
Yeah.
Great. Shout out to you, kampung effort. It's legit kampung effort, right? Last question. One place you learn that you think is underrated, right? You want to share with everybody. It can be a particular book, a website, or YouTube channel, or podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, one thing, anything. It don't need to be finance related.
Okay, I share about the latest one, right?
Okay, yes.
It's this thing called the All In podcast. Right. So
Shamath.
they call them the besties. So I find that one is really, really interesting.
All 4 of them, like Chamath, and who are the other 3?
Chamath, David Sachs, Jason Kalasis, and David Friedman.
Yeah, it's okay. One day I'll be even more all in, right? We'll double down.
Yeah, you'll double down.
We'll call it double down podcast, right? And the all in guys have to come.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your time, Reggie.
Lovely.